Hi everyone, I'm Chef Susie with Escoffier Online. Welcome to our live session today. Today we're going to be exploring a specialty cake. It's a cake roll and the name of it is a Harlequin Roll. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to just take our basic roulade sponge that we use for our cake rolls or our jelly rolls, and I've got a vanilla one, and we're going to be striping some buttercream in the roll. We're going to be rolling it up and we're going to be covering it with some ganache. Super simple. You've done the roulade before, it's easy. The buttercream and the ganache are your first two assignments. So if you haven't done them, they're on their way. They're pretty simple to do, just a few simple ingredients. And if you have done them, this is just another way to explore some uses of the buttercream and the ganache. So it's really easy. It's a super cute effect. It's going to have some striping in the roll when you cut it. So knowing all that, let's get started. So what I did is I prepared some sponge cake earlier. And I just did the yellow roulade, which is the sponge that's in the archive video webcast, so check it out. We've done this one before. It's just another use for it. So I wanted to show you this technique, and this is so cute. You can serve this cake whole, or you can slice the rolls and you can fan them around a platter. If you're making some mini pastry platters, looks super beautiful. Fan it around the outside of maybe a round platter. Then you can fill the inside maybe with some pastries, like some cream puffs that you did in your assignment too. So it's just, there's so many uses, and it's going to look really cute, and you can even serve it whole like we're going to today. So let's go ahead and fill our cake roll. So what I'm going to do is I put some powdered sugar on this. The weather is really humid here today, so the roll is a little bit sticky. So I put a little bit extra powdered sugar on it. If you're in those more humid climates, you're going to have to do this. And the wintertime is nice for us here for doing things like this, 'cause it's nice and dry. So I'm just going to shake some of this powdered sugar off, and then I'm going to invert the roll. I'm going to peel the paper off the back. And what I did is I spread my batter out on an upside down half sheet pan, and I put some parchment on it, and I secured the ends with a little bit of batter. I like these half sheet pans. They're a great size. I highly recommend them for your kitchen. If you're investing in pans, they're great to have because they make great cookie sheets. You can do the roulade on these upside down. And you can also bake cakes in them too, because the lip is high enough to support a cake batter or even a brownie batter. And what's really nice about them is they store really nice in your cabinets, because they stack up nicely and neatly. You don't have a bunch of different size cookie sheets like sliding all around when you open your cabinet. So consider that if you're buying some pans. These are great. Okay, so we've got the roulade sponge inverted. And what I always do is I trim off the end, because I just want to have a nice clean center. This is the center where we're going to be starting the roll. So I want a nice clean center to work with. Okay, and these can be a little messy. You can have powdered sugar kind of a little bit all over the place, but no worries, you can always clean it up at the end. Okay, so I've got my pastry bag filled with some buttercream. I made a little bit of lemon buttercream. I used some lemon extract. I added a little bit of color to it to give a little bit of a yellow hue, because I really like lemon and chocolate together. I think that they're a great flavor combination. So what we're going to do is I've got a plain tip, which is included in your toolkit, but no worries if you don't have it. You can even just cut the end of your bag, because it's something plain and it's just for filling. So we're going to start our striping. So it's going to take a little bit. So I'm going to go across the whole cake. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know. Okay, so I'm just going to be making stripes with this buttercream. And try not to use too big of a tip unless you want a lot of buttercream, but it's just a little easier to roll, and I like the effect better when it's just a small round tip. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just going horizontally, making rows of my lemon buttercream, and I'm leaving enough space in between for the chocolate. And no worries if you have a little gap here and there. when you roll, it's going to kind of press together just a little bit, and those gaps should fill in. So you don't have to worry, since this is a filling, you don't have to worry about making it super perfect as you would if you were decorating the outside. So please, if you have any questions, let me know. If you want to talk about anything, let me know too. Okay? So I wanted to mention the contest that we have coming up. Well, the contest that's in place right now, and the drawing that we're going to have, it's going to be coming up after the end of the month. So for every 10% of progress that you do in the program, you're going to get an entry into the raffle. 4 winners will be chosen, and each winner is going to receive a $100 gift certificate from the new Escoffier online store, so you can brand yourselves and your kitchen with Escoffier merchandise. So there's some nice hoodies, nice polo shirts, chef jackets, aprons, hat, and the scale is also on there too. And I believe it's $29. If you don't have a scale, a digital scale, and you didn't want to buy the whole toolkit, it's a good opportunity to get the scale too. It's a nice one. It's nice and small. Store is really easy and it works really well. And it's an Escali brand scale, which is a premium scale, and you'll be really happy with it in the years to come. You'll just have to replace the batteries every now and then. So I'm continuing with my striping. I'm going to take this all the way to the end because it's going to be just a little bit bigger of a cake roll. And what you can do too is you can trim off the other side if you're rolling it and it's getting a little too big for what you want to use it for. And we have a question.
Is that the chocolate ganache recipe?
Yes, the chocolate ganache that I'm going to be covering the roll with is the ganache recipe from the program. So also the buttercream that I'm using is also in the program. And I'm going to be striping next with the chocolate buttercream. And what I do for my chocolate buttercream is I take the buttercream recipe from the program. It's just a simple basic recipe, but just butter, powdered sugar, cream, and vanilla. And I make mine chocolate flavored by using a little bit of the ganache. And I don't use it right after I make it when it's still quite warm. I let it cool off a little bit so it doesn't melt my butter and my buttercream. But you don't want it to cool too much because it's going to be hard to mix in. But I just flavor it to the flavor that I want. I don't really have a measurement. I just kind of put it in until it looks like the chocolate buttercream that I would want. So here's the chocolate buttercream. And next we're going to be alternating the chocolate buttercream in between the lemon buttercream stripes. So like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. If you've got any gaps, that's okay. And do we have any more questions? Because this is going to take me just a little bit to do this. So the kitchen here today is a very moderate temperature. It's not too warm. This buttercream is holding up really well. There's no signs of melting. But if you're in a warmer climate and your kitchen is quite warm, you may want to refrigerate this a little bit before you roll it. Otherwise, it might squeeze out on you. So you're just going to have to get to know your pastries that you're working with and how they're reacting to the temperature in your kitchen. So being mindful, your refrigerator is just always a step away, and don't be shy about just putting things in there for a little bit to cool them off. You just need to sometimes, and you may be in a commercial kitchen someday that's quite warm because someone's doing a lot of cooking, or you have a lot of things coming out of the oven, which if you're pulling, let's say, like 20 cakes out of a commercial oven, it's going to heat up the kitchen no matter if it's air conditioned or not. So always keep this in mind, especially in the summer months. So we're lucky here in our area because we get a little break from the heat in the winter, but I know a lot of you don't. Okay, I'm just about 2/3 of the way with my striping. And if you have any questions, please just let me know. And you can flavor these. You can do different colors, even I don't know, the 4th of July holiday is coming up. Maybe a little red, white, and blue theme would be kind of cute. It's a little red and blue food coloring, and then just use the white buttercream. Any flavor works well. There's so many extracts out there. You could even do maybe a light chocolate and a dark chocolate to go along with it for some contrast. Any kind of contrast is just fine. Whatever you like. Okay, I'm going to have to refill my chocolate. And everyone's doing a really great job in the program. We've been seeing some progress, especially with the contests going on. So keep up the good work. We're going to be announcing the contest winners maybe about a week into July because we have to calculate everything. So your assignments are typically worth 10% of progress, and your reading sections are worth about 10% of progress. So if you do one assignment and 2 reading sections, then you'll be on your way to 30% progress, which will give you 3 entries into the raffle. So also keep in mind too that the raffle is fun, but making progress is going to bring you closer to your goals of graduation and all of the things that you've wanted to do and why you signed up for the program. So always remember that when you're working on your assignments and your reading. Okay, so I have the cake roll striped with the buttercream, and now we're just going to carefully roll this up. And we have another question before I start.
How do you know if the chocolate is ready for piping? Any temperature gauge?
The question is how do you know if the chocolate is ready for piping, and is there a temperature gauge? The chocolate buttercream that I'm using is just at room temperature today. If your kitchen is cooler, you may want to warm it up a little bit or mix it a little bit more. And if your kitchen is really warm, like I said, maybe refrigerate this before you roll it because it could all squeeze out on you. But it's about 72 degrees in here, so it's perfect room temperature for doing this. And keep in mind too, if you're in a warmer climate, a little trick to stabilize your buttercream is to add a little bit of shortening, not too much because it can be kind of greasy. Add a little bit of shortening in place of your butter, and that's going to help stabilize your buttercream in a warmer climate. Or if you're making some cupcakes for an outdoor party, it's a good idea. A little bit won't hurt. It's just going to help it out a lot. But be careful not to put too much because shortening has a tendency to be pretty greasy on the tongue. Okay, so let's go ahead and roll our cake roll. So what I'm doing is I'm just starting out the end, and my sponge is a little thick on this one, so it's going to be a little bit bigger of a roll, but that's okay because I'm going to be serving this whole. And it's even nice for cutting. I'm just carefully rolling this, and you can use some parchment that can help you out too with the rolling, and then it's just rolled up nicely. And what I did is I wrapped it in plastic and I put it in the freezer. So I've got one that I made yesterday or last night that's nice and frozen, so we will be able to finish it and cut it. Got any questions? Okay, let's go ahead and clean some of this powdered sugar off our table. I've got my ganache ready to go, and we're just going to be pouring it over the roll. And you can even just powdered sugar these rolls a little bit more. You can cocoa powder them. You could do a cocoa powdered sugar combination. You can even ice them with buttercream. It's not going to be a smooth effect when you're icing it, but you can take the comb over it. That's also fun to do too. And you can also put fondant on these. You can just take the cake roll and put it on some rolled fondant and just roll it, and then the fondant will enrobe it. But keep in mind, if you want to cover yours with fondant, put a little excuse me. Put a little apricot glaze on it first, and then it's going to help stick. It's going to help that fondant stick. So let's go ahead and ganache our cake roll. Okay, so I've got this just on a cooling rack, or any kind of pouring rack will work just fine, and whatever you have in your kitchen. So I've got a cardboard under this too, so I can easily move it around. I took like a full sheet cardboard and I just cut a strip off it and I slid it underneath. And we have another question.
How much shortening? Like a tablespoon? How long should it be frozen? And what do you do for the cracks in the sponge?
Okay, so the question is, how long can this be frozen? Wrapped well, you can store these in the freezer easily for a couple weeks if it's something that you want to make sooner. And for the cracks in the sponge, it just happens sometimes. These cakes, I made these a little bit higher, so they're cracking a little bit. I suggest making them a little bit lower if you want like a super clean look. And what I did is I just continued rolling, and the cracks will fill in a little bit with the buttercream, but for a super clean look, make your sponge a little bit thinner and it won't crack on you at all. Okay, so do we have any more questions before we get started? Okay, so I've got some ganache that I made earlier, and I'm just going to be pouring this over the roll. You can put it in a container with a spout, you can pour it out of the bowl, or you can ladle it. I'm just going to be pouring this right out of the bowl, and I'm just going to be pouring it directly over the roll. So it's a super cute effect. You'll be sure to dazzle your friends and family with this. And we're just gonna, it's a little cool, so we're just gonna leave it set up on its own for a minute. And I'm wondering if anyone has any more questions, and I'm wondering how everyone's doing with their progress in the program. Please let me know how you're doing. If you need help with any of your assignments, please let me know. And like I said, these the buttercream and the ganache are the first two assignments. And the cake roll recipe is in the archive video webcast, and we show how to make it too. So you can make this so easily today or even this weekend, and you'll be sure to dazzle your friends and family. So we're just going to leave this ganache set for just about a minute. It's a little bit soft. And what we're going to do is we're going to trim the edges, and then we're just going to be placing it on a platter, and we'll be decorating it. And you can serve it whole or you can serve it sliced too. So these are a great little complement to any buffet, nice dessert to serve for dinner some night, so keep them in mind. And like I said, they can store super easily in the freezer for a few weeks. Just make sure that you wrap them really good. If you pull them out and they're a little sticky, be sure to powdered sugar them. It works well in this type of weather with the humidity. So do we have any more questions? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut our roll. And I'm just going to trim off the end here so it's going to fit on the platter. So I've got some warm water with my sharp knife. And we're just going to carefully cut through the roll. And it's going to show our nice buttercream work. So this is the effect that we're looking for. We have a little bit of breaking here. We're just going to clean this up. We're going to make another slice. It's going to kind of carefully cut through. It's a super beautiful striped effect, and try to imagine that too with some other colors added to it. And we're just going to be cleaning this up a little bit. We have a little bit of our sponge coming off, but that's okay. We can always touch it up with a little bit of ganache. Ganache is like buttercream. It cleans up things really easy for us. We're going to cut the other half of our roll. And this, once it's finished too, you can store it in the refrigerator for a few days, depending on what the weather is like. You just don't want it to get sweated up. So I recommend maybe just overnight. So our Harlequin Roll is coming to life. It's super beautiful effect. With the two different colors of buttercream. So we're going to go ahead and put it on our platter. I'm going to decorate it a little bit with some of the buttercream that we used. And we have another question.
When you mentioned stabilizing the frosting with the shortening, how much is too much shortening a tablespoon?
We have a question about stabilizing the buttercream with a little bit of shortening. For the recipe in the program that calls for 8 ounces of butter and 12 ounces of powdered sugar, I would say you can easily substitute maybe 1.5 ounces of shortening for the butter, or even 1 ounce. Try with that and see if it works out well for you with your climate. And if you need to stabilize it a little bit more, go ahead and maybe use 2 ounces of shortening in place of the butter. So you're just going to have to work with it with your climate. And like I said, be a little careful because it has a tendency to get kind of have a greasy feeling on your palate. Shortening does. But mixed in the buttercream, you shouldn't even taste it. It'll stabilize it. It's going to make it a little whiter too. So let's go ahead and put our roll on our platter. And it's super helpful having this on a cardboard because we can easily move it. And this is our Harlequin roll. And we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of buttercream on here. We've got our buttercream bag. Just going to do a little bit of piping. Maybe we'll do some dots. And I've got some oranges. And it's going to be a little bit easier if your ganache is a little bit more well set. So put this in the refrigerator until it's set before you do any piping on it. And we're just going to do a little bit of piping at the end. And then we're just going to add a little bit of orange for a nice little citrus tone. And I've got some fresh mint from the garden earlier. So if you don't have any questions, we're going to be wrapping up our Harlequin roll for the day. And it was great seeing you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. And keep going on your progress with your assignments. And keep us posted if you need any help. And have a great day, and we'll see you next week.